Hey, second graders from Combs. This is Miss Campbell here out in her backyard. And I'm starting off just with a quick touch base about there is the container that I planted the milkweed seeds in and no visible germination yet. And then here are the mystery seeds and no visible germination yet in there. So we'll see. It's been, I guess about a week and a half since I planted the seeds, and so we'll keep on. That's something we're going to do in a couple of weeks anyway, is talk a little bit more about the milkweed. But I do want you to notice, do you see these little things in here? I want you to go ahead and start wondering about those. And I bet most of you, if you've been outside in the last little bit, those little things are everywhere. And if you look, like here in this part of my garden, do you see right here? It's like a whole big clump of those. And this week we're talking about flowers and about pollen. And did you know that those little things that I just held up actually are the flower of an oak tree? Can you believe that? Like, it's amazing. And most of you have heard of oak trees because Raleigh is called the city of oaks. We're known for our oak trees. And they are all over the place. Here I am down at the bottom. I have a fire pit down in my yard. And right beside the fire pit, thank goodness, not on top of the fire pit, we had a little situation yesterday. A tree came crashing down, and it's really turned into such a cool opportunity for me, because I am going to be able to show you that when this big tree came down, we're going to figure out from the flowers, we're going to find the flowers on the tree and then look for the seeds and figure out what kind of tree that is. But when this tree came down, it was so big, it actually brought down, there's some other branches out here that are from different trees. And if I counted correctly earlier, there were 3 different trees that this one big tree sort of messed up. And I can tell that not just from the leaves, but from the flowers and from the seeds. And so I want to start with this one right here, because this one really makes me think of the spring. And a lot of you have probably really noticed, see those, I call them helicopters. Do you see the helicopters? That's what I call those. And do you recognize that leaf right there? Does anybody know, think in your mind, do you know what kind of a leaf that is? Well, I will go ahead and answer that because you're not right here where we can answer it together. But that is a maple leaf. And these little things that we call helicopters are from maple trees, and they are actually the seed from the maple tree. And if you look really closely at this one, you can see where the flower is. Now, it doesn't look like the kind of flower that you usually think of as a flower, but there's the flower. And then once the flower goes away, then out comes these, oops, there one goes. There comes the little seeds that are these little helicopters. And there it goes down to the ground. So we've got a maple tree, and we've got, there's another branch right there where you can see the seeds and the flowers. I mean, excuse me. Yes, the seeds are the helicopters. The flowers are right on the very end. Now this is not the healthiest one I've ever seen. And if you want to look, I was trying to figure out where it came from, and it's all tangled up here. But this branch came from right up there. And if you can sort of see, that's where this branch came from. And sure enough, you look up there, you see the different parts of that tree. Now I'm up at the top part of the big, huge tree that came down. And if you can see right here, we've got something that is making me wonder, is that a seed or is that a flower of that tree? And if you look really closely, when I see something growing out right there, is that a new leaf or is that the beginning of whatever this thing is. And it just makes me wonder what part I have. And so that's something that we're gonna think about and reflect on, is especially after we look at the other things, the other trees that we see and the other plants in this great big huge one that fell down. Is that the flower, or is this little thing right here, is that the flower, or is that the seed? I wonder what you think. And here are some more. And I really want you to make up your mind why you think it is the seed or why you think it is the flower, and write down which one you think it is and your reasons for that, the evidence that you see and from what you learn, and share that with me on Google Classroom. The big huge tree that fell down, the little things that we see at the top, are they seeds or are they flowers? And why do you think that? Let's talk about the third kind of tree that this great big tree took down. It took down the great big part is what we're trying to figure out, whether those are seeds or flowers. The first one we talked about were the helicopter and the maple, but then the last, I was like, what is this branch? And see, I could see where it came off, and I traced it all the way up this tree right here, and way up there it knocked a branch over. And this is one of my favorite kinds of trees. I have some up in the front yard too, and it's called a tulip poplar. And you can see some of the remnants of it right there, and there's the flower of the tulip poplar. I've got some really good examples up in the front that I'm going to show you, so we'll pick back up with that in a minute. Promised I wanted to show you, I pulled off and set aside a lot of examples of the flowers of a tulip poplar tree, and you can see parts there where it opens up. Down at right here you can see before it's open, that's what we saw down at the bottom of the hill. So that big mystery tree took out a branch of my tulip poplar down there. Another thing, standing at the bottom of a great big oak tree, and I'm going to take a leaf off of this oak tree so that I can match it down with some of the baby trees that I've got growing underneath this tree, underneath this oak tree. So if I look at that, here is a little baby tree, and do you remember there's a lot of evidence right here? Do you see all of the acorns? The acorns are the seeds. The acorns are the seeds of the oak tree. And do you remember what the flower of the oak tree, that's what we started off with, that's these things right here. Those are oak flowers, all those little things that are all over the place. And look, I've got baby oak trees all over. Now let me get my little shovel, and if I dig that out, is there going to be an acorn at the bottom? Is that what this little baby tree sprouted from? Well, let's see if we can figure that out. Can we tell? We sure can. You can see the parts of the acorn. You can see the roots. You can see the seed, which is the acorn, the sprout, and then there are the leaves, just like what we were reading about. I have a bunch of those all over the place. So the seed of the oak tree is an acorn. The flower of the oak tree are all these little thingies that look like this, the flowers. And I'm going to post some pictures where you can see that, but it's even better to see it in real life. But just to understand a little bit better, this is a plant called aucuba, and I bet a bunch of you, especially if you live over near school, it grows really well, and I had it in my yard growing up. It just grows great in Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you look really closely right here, here is the flower of the aucuba, and then left over from last year, you can see here is a seed left over from last year, or actually you would call it the fruit. So here is the flower, and then the flower produces the fruit, and the fruit holds the seed. And so if I take the fruit off the outside, just like you would avocado or some other kind of fruit, you will find this little black seed inside, making a big mess. But the thing that I want to show you is that right down here, so this is what the seed looks like. The seed, the flower. Hey, Booker. This is Cheryl's dog, Booker. Then if you look down underneath, there's some little baby plants. Booker is giving me kisses and trying to help me dig. I'm going to dig up this little baby plant right down here, and I'm going to see, does it have a seed that looks like what we just unpeeled? Let's check and see. Okay, so I ended up digging up 3 of the little Aucuba babies, and you can see really well, you can see the roots. You don't really see, like this one I think is the best as far as the evidence of that seed. There's not a great, like with the acorn, we could still sort of see it, but it's really cool. When I was digging around, I noticed down here, that is not the one I was dealing with. There was another one down here that is ready. These are underneath here, and so it's just evidence that that's where they came from. And I'm going to hang on to these and take them home, because I don't think that Cheryl would want me to waste anything, because she just doesn't. And I'm going to plant those at home and see what we can do. I've got my oak tree planted in that pot, and then let me get a pot from down here. Let me see if I can get this white one to put the Aucuba in, and we'll fill that up. And then I'm gonna, so I've got my oak tree planted in that pot, and then let me get a pot from down here. Let me see if I can get this white one to put the Aucuba in, and we'll up. I have brought the Aucuba and the oak tree and watered them, because the plants need sun and they need water and they need air. And I've put them on the picnic table with the milkweed seeds, and over there are the mystery seeds. Got the hope rock there because we are just hoping that this all works. And my flying pig is just one of Miss Campbell's favorite things, that represents things that you don't think can really happen, but they do. So here we go. We'll watch these over the next few weeks.